guys, welcome to my channel Creatively Expressive. My name is Amy and today I'm showing you some ways that you can use scrapbook paper to create some super cute fall DIYs. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you found me and I hope you'll consider becoming a part of my creative family by subscribing to my channel. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, and I just want to say that I really appreciate your continued support. Now let's get started. For project number 1, I'm using this wood stacked pumpkin sign that I got from Hobby Lobby for 40% off, the paint color Tuscan Teal, and these 3 pieces of scrapbook papers that I got from Hobby Lobby. First, I'm going to paint the lower outline area of the stacked pumpkins with that Tuscan Teal color. Also for this project, I will be using these wood stacked pumpkins that I found at Goodwill. Every Goodwill near me that I have been to lately has had a ton of fall and Halloween crafting items, so maybe you have been able to pick up some too. If not, I'm sure you can find something similar at the crafting store. For this sign, I am taping around the edges of the backside because I have plans for the backside too, so I want to be able to keep that clean. Then after taping the edges, I am cutting off the excess tape with an X-Acto knife. Now that I have protected the backside, I will be painting the lower outline area and also the side of these pumpkins with the color Tuscan Teal. I want to be able to cover the raised areas on the pumpkins with scrapbook paper. So I'm going to be making myself a template with some blank printing paper first, by placing the paper on top of the raised areas and then rubbing my finger and the edge of a paintbrush around those edges. The reason I want to make a template with blank paper first is in case I mess up, I don't ruin my scrapbook paper since I only have 1 sheet of each. But I have a ton of blank paper, so it wouldn't be as big of a deal if I messed that up. Now before cutting each piece, I am tracing along the embossed edges with a pencil to make it easier to see for cutting. Then I labeled each piece of the template, right, center, left, and for the bigger one, right top, center top, right middle, left middle, center middle, etc. to make it easier to remember where each piece goes. Now I'm tracing my template pieces on the backs of the scrapbook papers, and then I will cut those pieces out. For the smaller set of pumpkins, I will be adding this wood fall cutout that came in a pack from Dollar Tree. And for this paper that is going on the top pumpkin of the smaller set, I want a specific area of that paper to be showing. So I'm putting my template on the front of the paper so I can pick the area of the paper that I want to use, and then I trace the template on the front side of the scrapbook paper. I'm going to be painting the stands on the pumpkins with the color Cafe Noir, but before removing my papers, I am labeling the back side so that I can remember where they go. And now I'm painting the stands with that dark brown color. And then I'm going to paint that Hello Autumn word cutout in the same Cafe Noir color. Now I'm going to use matte Mod Podge to adhere the scrapbook papers to the fronts of the pumpkins. And then I will cover the tops of the papers with a layer of Mod Podge as well. Then for the last step, I will be using this Starbond superglue to adhere the Hello Autumn words to the center of the top pumpkin on the shorter stacked pumpkins. And now this project is complete. Now for project number 2, I will be decorating the back sides of those stacked pumpkins. And I am going to paint both of the stacked pumpkins with the color Pumpkin Orange. I'm going to carefully paint around the edges first with a small paintbrush so I make sure that I don't get any of that orange on the other side of the pumpkins. And then I am going to fill in the rest of the area with a larger paintbrush. Now I purchased an SVG file off of Etsy that was for a Glowforge, but I wanted to be able to use it for my Hobby Lobby stacked pumpkins. So I had to modify it to fit. After making and using it though, I thought about not being able to share it with you guys since it was purchased. So I made a similar one on my own to be able to share with you guys, and there will be a link to it in the description box. When I cut mine out though, it wasn't a perfect fit, but it's pretty close. So if you want to use the file, it will be in the description box. I cut out the file on Stencil Vinyl with my Silhouette cutting machine, and I am using transfer tape and parchment paper to get it centered and stuck on my stacked pumpkin sign. And for the smaller stacked pumpkin sign, I made this stencil, and I will also include this in the description box. Once the stencils are attached to the pumpkins, I'm going to paint over them first with that same pumpkin orange color in order to seal in the edges of the stencil and prevent any bleed through. Once a layer of orange paint has dried, I'm going to go over the stencil with black chalk paint. And I am being very careful when I paint around the edges not to get any of the black paint on the opposite side of my sign. Once I have the coverage I like with the black paint and it has dried, I peel away the stencil. Now, after painting the back side of the shorter stack pumpkins and looking at it, I wasn't liking the way the side looked with the teal color right up against the orange and black. So I decided to carefully paint the sides with the color Cafe Noir. So I'm just using a small paintbrush to carefully paint that area in between the fall and the Halloween pumpkins with that dark brown color. Now I'm taking this Happy Halloween wood word cutout that I got from Dollar Tree and painting it black. And for the last step, I'm going to use Starbond superglue to attach the word cutout to the top pumpkin on the smaller sign. And now this project is complete. For project number 3, I'm using this small sign that I got from Dollar Tree and this leftover piece from a long rectangular sign that I also got from Dollar Tree. I removed the little sign from the frame and I am going to trace it onto the leftover piece of the pumpkin cutout sign. Then I'm going to take it out to my garage and cut it down. After cutting it down to the same size as the sign, I realized that I need to make it a bit smaller so that it fits in the middle of the frame, because there is not enough room for both it and the sign piece to fit in the back of the frame. So I'm just measuring that area and then marking my little cutout sign again, and then I will take it out to the saw and cut it down again. And now that I have done that, it fits perfectly inside the frame. Now I'm going to use this piece of scrapbook paper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I am going to trace the sign onto the back of it and cut it out. Then I used matte Mod Podge to adhere the scrapbook paper to the front of the sign. I cover the sign in Mod Podge, stick the paper to it, and then smooth it down so there are no bubbles. Then I want to remove that bead hanger because I don't need it for this sign, so I will just save it for another project. And now I can put my sign back into the frame. Then I'm going to paint the pumpkin cutout piece with the color Cafe Noir so that there is more contrast between it and the frame. And for the final step, I'm going to use Starbond super glue to glue the pumpkin cutout piece to the top of the sign in the center of the frame. And now this project is complete. For project number 4, I am going to be making over the back side of this 4th of July sign that I made last year. I thought it would be cool to be able to just turn the sign around after summer is over and have a sign for fall. I will be using this scrapbook paper that reminds me of leather that I got from Hobby Lobby, this leather thankful word that I got from the Dollar Tree, a piece of scrapbook paper from this book of papers that I got from Hobby Lobby, and this pumpkin cutout that I got from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I do is trace the sign onto the back of the textured scrapbook paper and then cut that piece out. Then I trace the pumpkin onto the other scrapbook paper and cut it out. Then I use matte Mod Podge to adhere the scrapbook papers to the sign and the pumpkin cutout. After attaching the scrapbook paper to the pumpkin, I decided it looked too plain and not enough like a pumpkin. So to fix this, I'm going to paint pumpkin lines on it. I want the lines to match the thankful word, so I got out all the colors that I have that are similar and decided the light mocha matches the best. Before painting though, I'm going to use an emery board to sand along the edges of the pumpkin to get rid of the bit of overhang of the scrapbook paper. I run the emery board along the edge of the pumpkin, pushing to the back and in a downward motion. Now I'm using a pencil to mark some light lines to serve as a guide for me when I am painting. And then I use a fine detailed paintbrush and that color light mocha to paint on some lines. And then I'm going to use a little hand sander to sand along the edges of the sign to remove that excess paper. And again, I am sanding away from the paper and in a slight downward motion. And now for the final step, I'm going to use Starbond superglue to glue the thankful word and the pumpkin cutout to the front of the sign. and then this project is complete. Now for the fifth and final project, I am going to be making a fall door hanger. I will be using these 2 summer hangers that I got from Dollar Tree and this piece of pretty floral scrapbook paper that came from this book of papers from Hobby Lobby. I know it's not traditionally what you would think of for fall, but the colors to me feel very fall, so that's what I picked. But you could pick any scrapbook paper that you want. The scrapbook paper is a bit too small to cover the entire wood hanger, so I thought of a solution for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is make myself a template. I am taping 2 8.5 by 11 inch pieces of white cardstock together, and then I'm going to trace the wood hanger on it. Now I am marking lines 13/16 of an inch in from each edge of the traced sign, including the diagonal edges. Then I'm going to cut out the template along the lines that were marked at 13/16 of an inch in. And now the template fits inside of the tag, leaving a border like the cork did on the original tag. Now that I know my template fits correctly, I'm going to trace it onto the back of the scrapbook paper and then cut out my scrapbook paper. Now I'm marking small lines on my tag at 13/16 of an inch in, so that I can place my template on perfectly centered. And then I am going to tape the template on the tag temporarily so that I can trace the tag hole onto the template. Then I use an X-Acto knife to cut out the hole, then trace the hole onto the scrapbook paper and use the X-Acto knife to cut out that hole. Now I want to remove the cork board from the back of the tags, and I'm using a straight edge razor blade to scrape it off. Now I'm going to be using the colors Wild Mushroom and Deep Red to paint the 2 tags. For the red tag, I only need to paint around the border area because the rest of the tag will be covered in paper. And for the second tag, I will paint the entire thing with the color Wild Mushroom. Once the paint is dry on the red tag, I am going to use matte Mod Podge to adhere my scrapbook paper to it. I cover the entire area where the scrapbook paper will be with Mod Podge, then stick my paper down as straight as possible, and then smooth it out with my hands to make sure there are no bubbles. When I have the paper all smoothed out, I am going to go over the top of it and over the border with another layer of Mod Podge. For the blank tag, I wanted to add a little extra detail besides the wording, so I went to Silhouette Design Store and found this flower that looks similar to the ones on the scrapbook paper, and cut out 3 bunched together on stencil vinyl. I stick the stencil to the brown tag and then remove the transfer tape. Now I'm going to paint on a layer of Wild Mushroom over the stencil first to prevent any bleed through. When that has dried, I am going to mix some white paint with the Wild Mushroom to get a lighter shade of brown, and I will use that new color to paint over my stencil. Then I will peel away the stencil. As you can see, it doesn't stick out a bunch, and that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted it to be more of a background detail. Just a little something extra to draw your eye in. Now I designed this Hello Fall decal in my Silhouette Design Studio to fit on the tag, and I cut it out with my Silhouette Cameo 4 on Stencil Vinyl. And I am using parchment paper and transfer tape to get it centered and stuck on my tag. After I have removed the transfer tape, I am painting over the stencil first with that Wild Mushroom color to seal in the edges of my stencil and prevent any bleed through. While that is drying, I am trying to decide what colors to use to match my scrapbook paper. I decided to use the color Toasted Marshmallow, which is a satin paint, to match the cream colored flowers. And then I'm going to mix up a color of paint to match my more peachy orange flowers. To do this, I just start mixing colors together that I think will give me the color that I want. And I keep adding and mixing until I think it's a close enough match. I started by mixing the colors Peachy Pink and Harvest Orange together. And then I added a little bit of the color Chestnut. Then I added just a bit of the color Toasted Marshmallow. And then I added in some light mocha. At this point, I felt the color match the flowers pretty well, so I used it to paint over the word fall on the tag. Then I used the Toasted Marshmallow paint to paint over the word hello. Like I said, this is a satin paint, and I think it was a mistake using it, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now that I have the coverage that I want and both paints are dry, I start to peel away the stencil. And this is where things go wrong. The satin paint is more rubbery than the matte paint, and it starts to peel up with my stencil. So first I tried running the X-Acto knife along the edges of the letters, but that wasn't helping. So then I decided to peel up the area just where it says fall, and I had no issues with it. It looks almost perfect, except for a spot where the stencil bubbled up. So I cut that piece of stencil away from the rest of it and started peeling up the rest of the stencil as carefully as I could. But after it was all removed, I thought it looked awful. So I had another idea. I recut the word hello on Stencil Vinyl, and I'm going to do my best to stick it on the sign so that it lines up with the word hello on the sign. I'm going to paint over that new stencil with the color Wild Mushroom first. That way if I have any bleed through on the rest of the tag, it will just be the Wild Mushroom color and it will blend right in. Then while it is drying, I started looking for another color to use. And I don't know why I didn't see this color in the first place, but I realized I had this color Desert Tan in my chalk paint that was very similar to the Toasted Marshmallow color. So I painted that new color over the stencil. And here's the moment of truth. Fingers crossed. I had a tiny bit of peeling up with this one, but nowhere near as much as I did with the satin paint, and I was mostly happy with it at this point. It just needed a little bit of touching up, and I'm going to do that with a fine detail paintbrush in the original Wild Mushroom color. And now that I'm happy with the look, I'm going to cover the entire tag with a layer of matte Mod Podge so that the finish on it matches the finish of the red tag. Now I want to make the backs of the tags look nicer, so I'm going to use a glue stick to attach some craft paper to the back, and you can find rolls of this craft paper at Dollar Tree. And it's usually down the aisle with the shipping supplies. After I have the craft paper stuck to the sign, I use my X-Acto knife to cut off the excess paper and cut away that area covering the hole. For the top sign, I didn't want to cover the entire back with craft paper because I want to be able to glue the wood on the sign to the other sign and not the paper. So I stack my signs the way I plan on gluing them and then turn them over to the back and trace the one sign onto the other. Then I put my glue only in the area that the other sign wasn't covering and then stick down the craft paper. I cut off the excess paper around the tag and the hole, then stack the two tags again the way I want them glued, and then turn them over to the back. Then I mark the top tag onto the bottom again, this time on the paper. Then I run my X-Acto knife along the pencil marks and peel away the inside area. Now I have an area not covered in paper like I wanted, and I know exactly where I need to put my glue, and I am going to use medium thickness Starbond glue to attach the two tags. I covered the paperless area with glue, then lined my second tag up with the edges of the paper on the bottom tag. Now that the tags are done, I am going to reattach one of the jute hangers that came with the original tags and then make a bow. I have been wanting to get myself a bow maker, and then one day I was at Goodwill and I found this one for $3.49. Score! I've never used one of these, so I had to look it up on YouTube, and it's actually pretty easy to use. There is a ruler guide on it so you can decide how long to make your tails and bow loops. I'm using this orange glitter ribbon that I already had on hand that was given to me, but originally came from Dollar Tree. You stick the ribbon in between the two dowels with the pretty side up, leaving a tail as long as you want. Then you pinch and twist that area between the dowels so that the back side of the ribbon is facing you on the second side. Then you fold the ribbon over, making a loop in the size that you want, and then place the ribbon at the end of the loop in between the two dowels. Then you pinch and twist the ribbon again so that the back side of the ribbon is facing you again on the new side, and make another loop on that new side. Then you just repeat this process, making as many loops as you want, and you can make the loops different sizes or all the same size. It's up to you. I decided to do 2 loops on each side with this ribbon, and I made them all 3 inches, and my tails are 5 inches. Now I'm using a second ribbon, and I got this gold ribbon from Walmart. With this ribbon, I'm going to make the tails 5 inches again, but I'm going to make the loops 2 inches for this one. And again, I am going to be making 2 loops on each side. Once I have all my loops made, I will cut the ribbon, leaving a second 5-inch tail. Now I'm going to take the bow out of the bow maker, making sure I'm pinching the ribbons together in the center. And then I use a pipe cleaner to attach them together. Then I wrap a piece of gold ribbon around the center of the bow and hot glue the ends to the back of the bow. To attach the bow to the tags, I just twisted the ends of the pipe cleaner around the jute hanger, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep this same bow forever, since I was just using whatever ribbon I already had on hand. But you could also hot glue or staple it to the tag if you wanted. And now that the bow is attached, this project is complete. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it's inspired you. If you did enjoy the DIYs that I've shared with you today, then please show me some love by subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, giving me a thumbs up, commenting, or even sharing this video with anyone that you think might enjoy it. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!